Do you give the president a pass mark?
Since this second anniversary came, we have seen so many expressions of assessment.
Yes.
They use the word the scorecard, which means the report card, the ones we want you to carry home from the school to go and show our parents, where they will tick. In the mathematics, you got this, English, you did this, and Papa will look and tell it what happened here. So a lot of people have produced the scorecards. Of course,
please take your time, listen to this video to the end, as this bishop explained, right? Just take your time, listen to everything he said on this video, and even concerning Tinubu's government. This is a Yoruba man, right? Let me explain to you Tinubu's performances, what Tinubu has been able to achieve over the last 2 years. Since Tinubu is the one writing the exam and scoring themselves, so let this man explain what is going on, what Tinubu has done, and what the problem of the country and the situation in general in Benue State. Take your time, listen to this video to the end, and please subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'll be your guy. Run out for me now. Subscribe.
The most well known, the most that we scattered much is the scorecard that the government gave itself.
Okay.
Our Minister of Information had a long, elaborate scorecard of how our president had performed in the last 2 years. Some will say, what do you expect? You have to write that. The fact, however, is that I don't know any student who sets his own exams, marks it, and takes his report card home and say, here, look how I've performed. From that point of view, I think we have to understand, that the government has to understand that whatever scorecard they make for themselves, they must also, we hope, have the patience to also find out what are other people saying. And if the government is about what the government is doing for the people of Nigeria, then we must listen to the people. True. What they are saying.
True.
And I have seen a few things on the screen, the television stations. Some groups which claim to be quite independent, who have run down the whole area, including the programs and projects that the president himself has presented as what he will do. And they have scored him from between the major problem is the terrible gap between the promises made and the implementation and the fulfillment. Good ideas, and even the major good intention to move Nigeria on a much higher level. That is a wonderful thing. Now the question is, how do you get there? Now the government is saying that to get to where we should be, we must be prepared to suffer, bear the pains. But other Nigerians are saying, is that the only way to get there? Must we bear all these pains? And if you tell that to the mother and the children and the father of a young family who has been having difficulty putting food on the table for their children, they cannot understand that kind of rhetoric. And to tell people to be patient, they always ask, for how long? And I want to insist that we presume that we elected this present government. I say we presume because that's what the Supreme Court eventually decided.
Right.
With the decision of the Supreme Court, there's no more room for discussion on that level. So we have elected this government.
Yes.
But I hope we should not forget that they were elected for 4 years. What I'm hearing now is as if we didn't elect them for 4 years. And they were telling us when we are going to judge their performance, it's not a midterm, it's just 2 years out of 4 years. I say, wait a minute, what's happening? When did we change the rules? Why I'm stressing this is that whatever policies the government puts out, it must be a policy that can work out within your term. Within 4 years.
4 years.
Which means you really have gone halfway through now. You have only 2 more years ahead. I do not think a government has the luxury to keep flogging the people because they have high hopes for the future. You are telling people to make an act of faith in you. The kind of act of faith that they make only for God. That, no, just bear the pains. We shall soon begin to smile. When? There's also this fact that in my town, my own part of Yoruba land in Kaba, will say the pounded yam that will fill your stomach, it is from the side that we know it. When you see the pounded yam in front of you, you know whether this is going to fit
enough
from the side. So the question is, we should know by now where we are going. Should know where we are going. And as you know, a lot of people have also remarked that the sermon of patience will not be received well when people don't seem to see patience on the part of those who are prescribing this wonderful bitter pill. In other words, this is an area where the way of life of the rulers, the kind of how they spend public funds, we should see there that there is a tightening of belt, that there is a readiness to be patient. But we don't see it because this government has not been less reckless than previous governments in terms of the remuneration of appointees, and even our men in the House of Reps, how they have completely put themselves on a totally different pedestal from the rest of Nigerians. That's not serious. You can't be doing that and expect me as a religious leader to pick up your sermon notes on patience and come and preach that to the people in my church who are suffering. It's difficult for us to do that. We will preach patience, all right, but we will also preach trust in God, trust in the future, a better future.
Yeah.
But we will want, as a government, we want to see how you are moving in this direction. And there are many people who are saying this is not only the best direction to take, it is perhaps not even the right direction to take. I would hope, therefore, that this midterm should be a good opportunity for Mr. President and his team to not only look at the scorecard that they have prepared for themselves, but also look at the remarks that are coming from those whom they are ruling, including those whom they consider as disgruntled losers.
Disgruntled elements.
Disgruntled losers, those who are making noise now because they did not win election.
Or because they were not allowed to be part of
Or because they were not invited to be part of the... If it is governance, when you are governing, there's a limit to how much pains you deliberately inflict on people because of either your plans, maybe even your economic ideology. Those things should not trump the good and the well-being of the people. And the people are not asking. People are not asking that every family should have an SUV. They're not asking for much. They're just asking to be able to live a decent life. And it's not as if this is something we've never enjoyed before. Now, in fact, why is it painful? Because Nigerians have been used over the years to a minimum of decent living. And when you come into government and that minimum of decent living suddenly plunges down, I thought it used to be a cause for concern. It would be a reason for the president to say, well, wait a minute, what are we not getting right? What are we not getting right? In the three big areas we have been talking about it since the time of Jonathan, namely economy, security, and corruption. And I will add, within corruption is the whole question of governance. Those three areas, we have been working on them. And I am not sure we have been making progress. Again, in the scorecard, we heard that of the government, they are saying, oh, they've made massive progress in security, that the nation is now safer than it ever was before. And I'm asking myself, in that case, why are they surrounding themselves wherever they are going with all this army of security, all these gun-toting security agents? If the country is so safe, surely a minister should be able to enter his car, maybe with an orderly, and travel to wherever he wants. Until they do that, they should stop telling us.
Okay, I mean, very, very comprehensive opening comments on that. So let's try to dimension it in parts. And the first area that I will raise is on the question of poverty, which is where we see a lot of pains. And of course, like you said, these are challenges that we have been trying to confront over the years. Now, I will make a comment, and then I will you also respond to it. I think that if you look at what the president is trying to do in terms of the broad economic situation, he's trying to stabilize the naira, even though with a huge devaluation, it has removed the subsidy, which we think there's a lot of corruption there, but with a huge, impact on the people, So both policies, even when we all agree that yes, we have to fight to stabilize naira and we have to deal with oil subsidy, it has ended up so far, with a lot of pains for Nigerian people. We're not saying that those policies are not right. I actually think that they're right. As a matter of fact, all the presidential candidates in 2023 said that they are going to remove subsidy and all of that. But my issue, and I'll probably phrase that the question, is that we haven't demonstrated a concern for poverty. And this is my own view. Yes, those policies are important. We need to deal with subsidy. Nigeria was spending more than it could afford. We need to deal with the stability of Naira, even though we have lost the value. But we cannot wait for those policies to germinate before we try to do other things that should be targeted squarely on poor people. So I am saying that yes, the policies are okay, but those policies is going to take a long time, like you said, for it to begin to give us the outcome. What are we doing for the now to help the Nigerian people?
What we have been hearing, the government saying they are rolling out palliatives. I hate the word palliative, coming from a government that all he has for his people is a palliative. Do they understand that in medicine, you give palliative to those who are about to die, so that they will not die in pain. So are these palliatives meant to just keep to help reduce the pain that they are inflicting on us, but actually we are going to die?
Wow.
No, we need more than palliatives. And in any case, de facto, we are hearing palliatives here, palliatives there. And it's obvious that when it comes to implementation, the good old elephant in the room, corruption, is eating up everything. We are told that they are doing poverty alleviation by distributing money to some people. And I look around, I have hardly heard anybody who said they got any of those monies. But it seems that they are distributing some money to some people, because at the end of the year, we are hearing the report of how much they have spent on this. Recently, they came out with student loans. That's another example. Supposedly and the president came out public to say, we want to make sure that no young man or woman drops out of university because of poverty. Wonderful statement.
Yes.
But I keep getting text messages from those I know and those whom I don't know, from schools, from universities, begging me that they have not been able to cover their fees. Can I please send them this? And immediately they send you their name and their bank account. And I said back, have you applied for the loan?
Their fund. So
and I keep hearing, sorry, we can never access it. That they're not accessing it. And I'm beginning to believe them, because among the scorecard, it was said that they had made available loans to more than, did you say 30,000 or 300,000?
I think 30,000.
1,000 students. And I say, 1,000 students. Out of the number of poor students in Nigeria, how many have you reached? And in any case, how do you reach them? What is the parameter? What is the criteria for being able to access the loan, so that we know those who...
It's a very important point.
So these are examples of even though
people are supposed, people are supposed to apply, regardless of...
and they apply even on your cell phone. And follow up. Now, eventually, we find out even the few amount that was paid out to them, according to the idea, straight to the schools, they have had issues of corruption, even within the institutions who have collected this money and have refused to give credit it to the children in their schools. They are keeping them in banks are making credit, making interest for themselves, and they are, of course, as usual, they promise to investigate it, and that is all. We need to fuel subsidy.
Okay.
I was among those who said, if fuel subsidy means giving our hard-earned currency to some rotten, corrupt marketers who collect money, but either don't bring in the oil at all and get paid for it, or bring in less than they put in their invoice and get paid for it, then please scrap it. And when I heard Tinubu said fuel subsidy is over, I wanted to hear later. We have now taken step to find out what has been happening. There have to be record. How much have we been paying is fuel subsidy, and how much fuel have been actually been coming? The former EFCC chairman, Bauer, has just told us that the records are there. That there are people who have been collecting money for fuel subsidy, and they did not bring it in.
Although he seems to be talking about what happened in 2012.
Whether 2012 or 2023. I'm saying when you came in 2023 and you removed fuel subsidy, you should even go back there and tell Nigerians, so far, these are the people who have collected our money
and we're going after them.
and have not brought us the fuel. They still have to bring us that fuel or bring us our money.
Yeah.
There have been
some accountability.
There has been no discussion in that direction. And I'm very surprised because the government has been receiving very serious criticism on the announcement of Mr. President on the day of inauguration. Fuel subsidy is gone. If he had shown us the effort made to recover the money we have lost, because if that was done, then of course it will make sure that it will not continue. What we are even hearing, which is a greater sadness for me, is that even since 2023, fuel subsidy has been going on. Some say in through the back door, and which means. The question is, you have subsidy. That means we have saved money that we won't be spending what we were spending before. Therefore, we have saved some money. How much have we saved? What is happening to it? The only thing I hear is that the money we saved, we have distributed it to the governors, and so the money is with the governors. Go and ask them. And we we all know what of course, the governors, they are not the same all over. Some governors are better than others, but some governors are really useless.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you can't even complain because many of them were not elected. They rigged their way into power. That's another question altogether. Namely, about on what basis is this our democracy sitting?
Okay, I mean, we are going to come to that, but still on the issue of the 2 years. So we talk about the
2 years. We are halfway through.
Yeah,
this is not a quarter term. This is half term.
50% of the whole.
Yeah, we are not in a government that is going to be for the next 8 years. And the more I hear that from people in government, that we are here for 8 years, the more I am pained. Does that mean they don't intend to have elections in 2027?
Of course they will.
Well, if that was so, then we are being deceived massively, because when we went for elections in 2023, we are told to elect a president for the next 4 years. That must remain.
We will. So let me ask you, Cardinal. So on the question of insecurity, a few notable Nigerians, including the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, has suggested that we should use the unconventional methods, aka the mercenaries, to help us, deal with the insecurity that is all over the place. That the military doing a good job, no doubt, but they've been overstretched. Do you support the idea? And you remember this was also done in 2014, just before the 2015 election by President Jonathan. Do you think we are at that point where we should use every available means to secure the country, including unconventional methods like mercenaries? Again, Cardinal.
Obviously, bringing in mercenaries is very unconventional. But there are some unconventional methods that are also good. Okay, and we have to study that. And mercenary is neither here nor there. It's a very dicey approach. Okay. Because who are mercenaries? Mercenaries are people ready to do a job for you in the area of security for a pay.
Yeah,
they are not going there like an ordinary soldier who is ready to risk his life. Mercenaries never risk their life. But if they do, how would they enjoy their?
But they got the job done in 2014.
Well, if they got it done, why are we still where we are? No, I think we cannot build our security on the basis of the exploit of some rascals called mercenaries. This day and age, no, this day and age. No. In the olden days, where mercenaries were an essential aspect of the armed forces, they formed their own unit of mercenaries. They put their lives on the line, and they get paid and get killed in the process. But that's not the kind of mercenaries we have now. No, rather, before we go for mercenaries, can't we look a little bit more inwards? My own feeling, I've been asking all this time. So all these 40-year-old, 50-year-old major generals that we have retired, many of them have done very specialized courses, including areas of insurgency. But they have been retired either for political reasons or for reasons of what they call it, federal character. We'll be killing ourselves from this. Can we not devise a way whereby there will be a way for all our retired and able and trained
generals,
civil officers, not only generals, because some of the best people are also among the area of the lower ranks, colonels, not just generals, colonels, majors, captains, and even sergeants. Bring them together again. if they don't want to put them back into the mainstream, see whether they can form a special corps of ex-service people who can do a lot of good, who can supplement what the armed forces is doing. What I'm hearing people saying is that it is and hearing from them, from the armed forces people, even though I don't believe them, they say what we are facing is an asymmetric warfare. And I'm beginning to hear them say, we have not been trained for that. That we have been trained to line up and face an army with its own, you know who the enemy is because their uniform is different.
Right.
Like when we fought the Civil War, the Biafran soldier was proud to wear Biafran uniform. They come and you know them, and the Biafran soldiers knew the federal troops. They say that this is a war. The people you are fighting, they are wearing babariga and covering their face with hijab. What I'm hearing from them is that if they are not coping, it's not because they don't have enough soldiers. But they also say they seem to be suggesting that the arms they have cannot cope with this. As for that one, there are issues about how have all the money every year we are voting for security. There have been a lot of issues about monies meant to buy proper equipment have ended up in some private pockets, both military and civilian. So it's a matter of, somebody told me, and I believe him, that the issue we are having with the intractable situation of our dealing with insurgencies, and both in the northeast and the northwest, boils down to the two big problem of corruption and bad government. And this was by one of my northern friends who said that is the cause. There's corruption, which means all the money you are spending is not good there. We are hearing soldiers, or the young soldiers in the front, complaining they are not even getting their usual allowances. Their welfare. They are not getting their welfare. They get killed and they are not getting treatment. Some are complaining that they have to find ways of treating themselves in hospitals, or they are even taken to the military hospitals where they are not getting the best care possible. That's not how it happens. And so we have all this. There's also the issue about are we been able to find a way of empowering the local communities to defend themselves? Because I am always surprised. Why is it that even when state governments have put up an outfit to deal with the other kind of security, that's the one we are talking about now, down in the Benue State, in the east, everywhere. The southwest, southwest eventually succeeded in getting as far as Amotekun. But it's always been a running battle between the federal government and the states as regards how far can these local outfits go.
Well, that is on the state issue of state police.
Yes.
Do you support state police? Sir?
Of course, state police. And you know, the terrorists are armed with the best weapons.
Armed to the teeth.
They are armed with the best weapons. You get local vigilantes who are carrying den guns and cutlasses, and many of them have done heroically with their meager weapons.
Compared to those guys that are doing flying drones.
Isn't it about time, if you are talking about non-conventional, that apart from the soldiers we have recruited and trained to fight conventional warfare, let's train other young people, all these young people who have, and the hunters who have made themselves available. You know, everywhere we are hearing about what they call them, these people who are not soldiers but who are helping to fight. Vigilantes. Because of the success of their efforts, they have more or less been recognized now that they are a force to be reckoned with. They are also paying with their lives. Many of them are dying. What stops them from being given proper weapons? Why must you restrict them to just carrying den guns?
Interesting.
Because you give proper weapons to a corporal because he's wearing the proper uniform.
Right. And he's been trained, he's gone through your system.
But you think that you cannot train these volunteers? How much does it take to train a good volunteer to handle very close calls? I think we should walk in that direction. Walk in that direction. Maybe if we like also get the regular soldiers to be involved in this whole arrangement, so that every community has a way of defending itself.
And that brings us to the issue as we begin to wrap up, Cardinal, of what is happening in Benue and Plateau, where the governor of Plateau has said that this is a genocide, and we've had stories of a lot of people say that they will scare them away from their houses, from their lands. People will desert the towns, and then later on, when they think there is peace, they come back and they find out that intruders have taken over their land and their houses.
Yes,
people have told stories of how they will be in front of their house and they can't go in because it's been taken over by.
Sometimes they take over their wives.
So the point I wanted to ask you, Cardinal, is that why have the other part of Nigeria, why are we pretending as if what is happening in Benue and Plateau is not happening? How many people have to die for us to be screaming at the top of our voices that this has to stop? Or what do you think about? How do you feel?
No, I have never been able to understand what has been happening in Benue and in Plateau and in Taraba.
Yes,
it's not all those areas.
The other places. Yeah,
I'm hearing all kinds of theories that this is all about a land grab. That whole zone is full of beautiful grasslands, and that somehow there's a high-level conspiracy by the headsmen who can no longer continue herding their cattle in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, because it's all taken over by the desert, and somehow they have agreed to come and take over land in Nigeria. And therefore they target that zone of Plateau, Taraba, Benue, and that the ultimate objective is to sweep the people there out. And my answer to that is, well, any group of people can make plans, no matter how outrageous, but must those plans be allowed to prevail in a nation that is supposed to be a modern nation 2025?
Yeah.
If there is ever such an agenda, does that mean our government doesn't know? If I'm hearing it, are they not hearing it? Talk of Benue. Before, it was a PDP government. Governor Otum was shouting.
Yeah.
And he complained that because his party is not in government under Buhari, nobody was listening to him. Buhari's cousins are killing his people, and everybody is keeping quiet. Now, the same Benue, it is not a PDP government. The governor there is an APC. He used to be a Reverend Father.
Yeah.
I said he used to, because as far as we are concerned, he's suspended from being a Reverend, because that's not our job anyway. If it was our job, I would be somewhere else by now.
Well, it was a Catholic. It's a Catholic
Reverend Father. Yes. Theologically, once a priest, always a priest. So he's always a Reverend Father. But from our canonical aspect, he's suspended because
you are admitted to.
He was not. Yes, he went against the decision of his bishop. But that's another issue. We have our laws permit a priest to opt out of the priesthood, to become a lay person and enter politics, and he would have had our support, full support.
Is that not what happened?
Not exactly.
Okay.
Anyway, so what I'm saying is that we can understand under Otum that a group that is Fulani people, with the full support of their cousin in Aso Villa, are now gradually taking over their territory and sweeping them all into IDP camps, where they are collecting a cup of gari every day. All right. But since 2023, there is no longer a PDP government in Benue State. It's an APC government with an APC governor. And in Aso Rock, I don't see any Fulani man there who is cousin to the Fulani headsmen killing people. He's Tinubu. I don't know whether he has Fulani blood. He's a Yoruba man.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that the Benue State is so impotent. The SGF is a thief man, George Akume.
Yeah.
Which means there is no reason why the governor of Benue State cannot synergize with the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to bring to the attention of. This is not a question. When you say that the governor is the chief security officer of his state, that is just by way of speaking. For me, that is useless talk, because it doesn't control the. It doesn't control what it requires to sweep out all these heavily armed marauders. Why is it that? Obviously, this should be one of the major concerns of our president.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we were talking about Benue, you were very passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I was moved, because that's the way I feel about it. That it shouldn't be going on like that. People are dying every day.
Yeah.
And it's probably almost taking for granted. There are 4 Catholic dioceses in Benue State.
Okay.
4 of them. There's Makodi itself. So then there is Boko, Kasnala, and Otukpo. And each of them has a bishop. They have all been shouting. But what can a bishop do in the face of killings? Recently, they have been complaining about how many churches, parishes have been completely wiped out. So, if this kind of thing is allowed to continue, and we are now facing re-election of 2027, then it means we are in a serious problem. That is what government is. The government is not about that. The government is about dealing with the real needs of the people. You're talking of poverty. There can be no greater poverty than when they drive you out of your territory. And these are farmers. The only source of livelihood is farming, and they can't do it. And I want to, while we are talking of Benue, I think we ought not to forget that practically the same kind of terrible genocide, to use the word of the governor, is happening in Zamfara State. Even Sokoto State, villages are being routed, and people cannot go to farm. And of course, that means they are hungry.
Right.
And of course, whilst there are theories in Benue and in Plateau that this is a Muslim Islamization agenda, you cannot apply that definitely to Zamfara and Sokoto.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something.
Exactly.
What is it behind it? I don't know. I'm also told, we're also being informed, especially with Niger State, this is also not unconnected with illegal miners who have occupied vast territories in Nigeria, mining furiously without government control. And they are good soldiers. They have well-armed people protecting them where nobody can go. They are mining. And does our government not know about that?
Well, hopefully.
If that kind of serious problem is going on, and the government either is not aware or is aware and cannot do anything, can they boast to be a government?
Thank you so much.